The following podcast was recorded live in front of no one, except for my dad and his best friend.
This is Survivor Talk with D&D. I'm Dwayne.
I'm David.
And we're just two best friends talking about a show we both love, so let's get to it! Tonight is our listener feedback show for episode 6 of Survivor One World, where we read, share, and discuss your feedback.
All night.
All night. Yeah, it seems like it because we have 6 feedbacks tonight.
How long was our first feedback podcast? Like 8 minutes?
It was 9 minutes long, and we had no feedback.
So we did a feedback podcast to let them know we had no feedback.
Yes, well,
that's like, listen to me. I'm not talking to you anymore.
Yes. And then, so now we have 6 feedbacks from 5 people because one of our listeners is starting a trend, and she tends to send 2 feedbacks every week. Veronica. All right, so let's get to the feedback. You ready?
Do it.
We have a new feedback, a new person tonight. Canucked. All right. He says, "Hey guys, I had to laugh listening to you guys talking about Tarzan. I was astounded as well because he actually doesn't make sense. He might use lesser known words, but he certainly doesn't use them correctly. I have a degree in English, and I can assure you that the guy has no idea what he is talking about." Okay, right here I'm thinking, uh-oh, he has a degree in English. Yeah, just what is he thinking as he listens to our podcast?
That's true, let alone Tarzan. What about us?
I know. Forget Tarzan. Okay. All right, he goes on. He said, quote, "I took my personality to a different lodestar," unquote. You can't take your personality to a different lodestar. He could have said something like, "The tribal lodestar is certainly not me." The word lodestar is a noun similar to the word leader. Both words are pretty much interchangeable. Quote, "I took my personality to a different leader." That makes no sense, right? The guy is a total idiot. Hey, Canuck, why don't you tell us how you really feel? Hey, but I like the way he just how he explained lodestar, though. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could try and defend Tarzan, but I don't think it would make any sense. And then the next email would be about me not making sense. So I don't want to fit in Tarzan's category.
Yeah, you don't need to try to defend Tarzan.
No.
Nah. All right. He goes on. He then goes on to say that Leaf saying explanate is a neologism is also incorrect. A neologism is the word used to describe a newly invented word that has yet to make an appearance in the dictionary. For example, a couple of years ago, podcast was considered a neologism. It has nothing to do with someone trying to say a normal word and then butchering it, like Leaf did. Tarzan even goes on to define neologism for Jeff, and he completely gets it wrong.
Now, he's right. I thought Leaf was pretty dehydrated, to say the least, when he tried to say that word.
Yeah.
That was not a neologism. That was a misquote, a misspoke.
Right. Now, the funny thing about this whole paragraph is in the time that it took us to say it on the podcast, just multiply that by 5. Because it took us forever to figure out, number one, how to pronounce neologism, and then halfway through the paragraph we forgot how to pronounce it and had to go back and figure out how to pronounce it again. But now I know. Neologism.
There you go. Everybody say it together.
Neologism. Now that's assuming Merriam-Webster is correct, but anyway.
Right.
Then on this latest episode, we see Tarzan siding with Alicia over Christina after witnessing some of the nastiest bullying in Survivor history. That's right. The guy is absolutely clueless. Boy, I agree.
Yeah.
After Alicia, he is easily my least favorite Survivor left. For a 60-plus-year-old guy, it seems he has absolutely no wisdom at all. First going along with Colton, and then Alicia. Talk about bad judgment. He is not a smart guy. I guess he works in the medical industry, so people assume he is smart, but I don't think he is. I think using words that you don't understand is a sure sign of stupidity. I have never written to any podcast before, but this guy really bothered me. I don't know why, but it just got on my wick that no one called his dumb beep out. ...
Good job.
I can't believe we're his first podcast to ever write to.
I am so honored.
And since he is an English professor, We are the first podcast to which he has ever written. Allow me to say it correctly. All right? That's pretty cool. Canuck, we completely agree with you. Tarzan just doesn't seem to have any... For me, it's like common sense, or it's just totally unaware of the obvious.
Is he one of those people that's so book smart that he has no common smarts?
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Because when you see plastic surgeon, I think educated. You think he's been around for a while. But on the other side, this guy could have people in his office that all have to wear name tags, so he doesn't forget who they are.
You're so bad.
I'm sorry.
It's like, now, what were you having done? You were having a nose job? No, I was not. Aren't you Bob? No, I'm Julianne.
But I disagree. He's becoming one of my more favorites just to watch and listen to because you never know what's going to come out. I'm not pulling for him.
No.
But he's one of my favorites to watch.
No, but I mean, it's just like every time he talks, though, I'm worried about what he's going to say. I mean, the fact that he defended Colton so many times when Colton was so obviously being cruel and mean and manipulative, and the stuff that he said about Christina, all that was just being fed to him by Colton.
Right.
And that's why he said it. He doesn't think that way. I mean, if you look, well, he does because Colton said it, but he didn't come to that on his own. He came to that because Colton told it to him. Well,
there's some Colton strategy comments I'm going to cover in a few minutes that kind of explain a little bit of that, but it still doesn't defend what he's trying to say.
Well, let me finish with Canuck. Anyway, guys, I listened to a few of the Survivor podcasts, and you guys is the newest one I listen to. I like it a lot. You guys have chemistry. It gets me through another hour or so of my workday. Thanks, Canuck. Well, we thank you, Canuck.
Do you think he's in Canada right now or from Canada living here?
Why do you say that?
Because he's Canuck. That's a Canadian term.
Oh, so that's not his name?
If you're not. No,
I didn't think it was
I'm
his
guessing
name,
that
but...
Canuck means he's Canadian. So if you're not, let us know in a quick email.
Yeah, and by the way...
I'm pretty sure that means you're from Canada.
Yeah, and we really enjoyed your feedback. Thank you so much.
That was hilarious. I read it 3 times.
Yeah, it was great.
That was so funny.
Plus, he enjoys our podcast, which is just humbling and awesome. So that's pretty cool. Next, we have Eriks from Taiwan. Eriks, you have succeeded in giving David a very adventurous couple of days. You want me to read this, David, or are you going to read it?
No, I'll read it.
Okay, here we go.
All right, Eriks begins. David said, if you're going to call somebody out, call them out with the first 2 words of your email.
There you go. Go, Eriks. Come on,
Good
get
job.
him. Get him, Eriks.
All right, David said, if Colton was a real Survivor player, he would have given the idol to Alicia. This doesn't make much sense, as Colton said if he had stayed in the game, he would have blindsided Alicia, and she would have been next before Christina. Eriks, you're exactly right. But what you have to keep in mind is my comment came Thursday night, right after the episode.
Yep.
And before we recorded, I did find one exit interview, but all I found was that Colton mentioned he'd had an alliance with Jay from day one, and that's where I guessed that's who he was talking about giving the idol to.
Right. Well, even
him or Sabrina.
Right. I mean, even I, whenever I listened to Colton's interview with Joanne and Stacy, and he made that comment about voting out Christina and all that stuff, I was like, oh, wow, that totally changes how David and I were thinking in our podcast.
And when I said it, what I meant was the way it was all edited, which Dwaine and I talk about all the time. Things are how they're edited on TV. Colton taking the idol with him came off as a whiny little brat, picking up his toy and taking it home because he didn't want anybody else playing with it.
Right.
And now that I've seen the other interviews, the other call-ins that he's done, the dissertations, the Survivor 101 lectures he's given,
oh my God,
I have a completely different perspective of Colton. Now, I don't want to get too far into this, so I want to mention it later. But I agree, Eriks, that saying Colton, if he was a real Survivor player, would have given it to Alicia. But that's not actually what I said. I said a real Survivor player would have given it to Alicia, who was the one person that stood beside him, supported him, and that's me thinking along Survivor lines. But you're right. Saying Colton should have given it to Alicia was completely against his strategy. So I agree with you on that one.
Right.
All right, you got anything, or can I keep on?
No, go on.
He continues on saying that Colton said he was afraid to give it to anyone other than Jay because he thought it might hurt Jay's game. He also said his planned Final 4 was Troyzan, Jay, and Kim, and his perfect Final 3 would have been Troyzan and Jay.
This is crazy.
He also...
Erik's not crazy. It's just all this stuff that Colton is saying. It's like, okay, and we're just going to believe him? I mean, okay, go ahead.
No, that's a great point. I'm kind of I want to be an optimist in this because if everything Colton is saying over the last 4 days is true, this guy was brilliant. This guy's day by day by day plan was perfect to get him to the end.
Right,
The bacterial infection is what messed him up.
right,
But, on the other hand, he could look at all 15 days and say, "Oh, why did I do that? Okay, let me make up a reason
oh
why I
yeah,
did that, why I said that."
right,
I'm going to be on the optimist side because I think his plan was pretty smart.
okay,
So he keeps going. He says he also would have targeted Chelsea as first out after the merge to cut off Kim's arm. I'm sure that didn't make Dwaine sweat at all since that's his winner.
yes,
Maybe he is rewriting history to improve his image, but it would
mm-hmm.
have been interesting to see how he would have done it in the game with this game plan. I
Yeah,
agree. I think there's a possibility that Colton is rewriting what his plan was so that it makes him look smart on TV.
that's what I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's the point we were just trying to say.
Yeah, and I also think if you listen to his interviews, I think CBS has coached him on
Yeah.
how to save his image because he is who he is. He is who he acted like on the show. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but
No,
I,
you're
I,
right. You're right.
I think it's a lot of coaching and a lot of PR. How am I going to smooth this over so I don't come across as bad as I am? Or at least I mean, that's the way it's coming across to me. So,
Okay. Eric continues. It's just interesting that he would choose such a strong Final Four. That's a good point.
I
I
agree.
don't like the guy, and I don't want to see him return, but I wish I could have seen how his game played out. Me too. He definitely could have won had he made it to the Final Three based on the way people perceived him in the game, which seems to be a lot different than the way viewers see him with the edit. Excellent point.
Yep,
I
very
totally
true.
agree. And this is what I wrote. It seems every interview and snippet from the show has people standing up for Colton and talking about him being a trusting person. So I think had he made it to the end, given a chance to be in the final three or two, and if he got a chance to speak his piece about how he played and ask for their votes, I think he could have won.
Now that's you saying that. That's
That's
not
me
Eric.
saying that part. I'm sorry. That was me saying that part.
Okay.
I mean, everything we see on TV, they're talking about how he was a trusting person. They liked Colton. What we see is what we're getting fed from the edits.
Well,
But I
that's
think,
true.
yeah, I think if that was his plan to go through all this, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, then I think he could have gone to the end and done it really well.
Okay.
So I
I
agree with you
mean,
on that, Eric.
it is true that we are seeing his edit, but they don't make up him and Alicia being the cruelest people I've ever seen on Survivor.
Sure.
So you can't make that up. I mean, and even on one of the extra scenes, Colton does his eyes like an Asian person and starts mocking Christina as Christina's joking around with other people in the camp. Even when she's being fun, he's still mocking her, and not only mocking her, but mocking her ethnicity.
Right. And I think that's where your point is the most warranted in the fact that that's who Colton really is.
Yeah,
Who
I
would,
think
who
that's
would do that when it doesn't matter? He just did it
no.
to the camera.
Well,
The
he
camera
did
was
it.
right there, and he did it right, looking right at the
Yep.
camera with Alicia laughing at him.
Yep, he did it because he had an audience of Alicia.
Right. All right, let me continue his email. I still don't see why Troyzan and Jay would stick with the women only to lose the male majority and be voted out. I think they will return to the men's alliance, and the men will target Alicia, which is why Tarzan is so angry in the preview.
Okay, this is where I disagree with Eric because I don't think the guys have a majority. It's 6 guys, 6 girls, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
tribe-wise, Solani is 7 and Manano is 5, right?
Right.
So, I mean, the majority is the Solani. Why not stay with the Solani and have the majority?
I can see both sides of the argument. I mean, it's going to depend on what I think it's going to depend on what Kim and Chelsea do, not what Troyzan and Jay do. If they take
Well,
Alicia back, then it's going to look like it's going back men versus women again.
that's true, but but then say you're Troyzan and Jay. You want to go back with Leaf and with Greg? I don't think so. Why would you want to go with them? Unless you
It
think
would
you can beat them.
it would depend on the relationship you've developed with Kim, and I
Yeah.
think it's a good relationship. So I'll be honest, I would stick with those people. If you
Yeah.
feel like you can trust them,
Okay,
then
but
that's a shot.
admittedly though, I am biased because I want Chelsea and Kim's alliance to do well. If they stay with Kim and Chelsea, those are stronger players. If they go with the guys and they are assured of a majority with Christina,
Uh-huh.
then I mean I wouldn't mind going against Greg and Leaf in the finals,
Right.
right? So maybe that's probably where he's coming from, and I'm just biased because I don't want Chelsea and Kim to lose. So,
All right, let me continue his email. Guys and girls aren't 6 and 6 with Christina on the men's side. Why would Christina return to the women after everything that's happened instead of staying with Jonas and Leaf?
yeah, okay.
That makes sense about Christina,
Yeah.
but when is Survivor ever gone the way we think it's going to go?
Yeah, true. But
I don't think anything is a lock, and that's why I love Survivor. But I think if Christina starts showing her siding with the men, Kim and the brilliant people in the women's tribe will see this and start making a move to pull her back.
yeah,
I don't think they'd let that happen.
yeah. But Christina's not going to go over with the women if Alicia's with the women. So it's it's
True,
it's
that's
not going
true.
to be a girls against guys from the girls' perspective because the girls aren't going to want Alicia.
Well, she was in that original alliance.
Well, I know, but
It just this should be a good episode. It's
yeah,
all starts over. Let me see if I can finish this email now.
yeah. Since I apologize. I'm not used to being on this end. Go ahead.
I like Dwayne's bring in Jonas idea though. It's a pretty solid theory that would even out the men and women on that tribe. But if I'm Jay and Troyzan, I would still want to get rid of the strong women as the remaining men would be an easier final three.
Yeah, that's what he's saying, right? And I see that point, Eric. So I concede that you are correct. Go ahead.
All right. And finally, it says even Cat in the final three would be dangerous and win it all in the same way that Fabio did. Finally, wouldn't it be great if Christina, after being called a cockroach, ends up being the sole survivor? Cockroaches
Yes.
definitely have pretty good survival skills. I would love that if Christina made it.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Now, the difference between Cat and Fabio is Fabio won challenges.
Right.
He was athletic. Cat is not.
Right.
Um, and that was Eric and Kaohsiung, Taiwan.
Yeah. But when I read that final paragraph, wouldn't it be great if Christine, after being a cockroach, ends up being the sole survivor? I thought, whoa, that could definitely happen.
She could ride the tide from either
Yeah,
side, helping
she
votes.
sure could. All right, great feedback, Eric. You definitely gave us a lot to talk about. So, all right, here's Sylvia in San Diego. Hi, D&D. Wow, am I ever glad that Colton is gone. Although I agree with you two that I would have been happier to see him blindsided and voted out, but at least he's gone. You know what they say about karma, and it sure seemed to me that Colton had that coming. I've heard him in a couple of exit interviews, and he sounded only mildly contrite about the way he treated people. I hope we never see him again. Also, I was very impressed with Christina. Up until this episode, I haven't been a big fan of hers, but I thought she showed a lot of character in how she acted. I agree. I don't think she was kind to Colton to benefit herself. She seems to be a genuinely empathetic person, and I would be her friend. You would, but Greg would not. Boy, Tarzan is a strange one. He seems unable to choose the right people to support. I guess I'm glad he will be on the jury just for the entertainment value. Oh, that's right. Everybody now's on the jury, aren't they? Think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, 12 people. 3 finalists, 9 on the jury.
that's 7 on the jury.
Well,
No, there's still some people that are going to leave before the jury.
you think so?
I thought it was just. I think it's just 7 on the jury.
Oh, I guess we'll find out. Unfortunately, I don't have any crazy theories, but can't wait until next week. Thanks again for the show, Sylvia in San Diego, California. All right. Great feedback. Do you have anything about Sylvia's feedback
No, I like it.
besides what I've already said?
She seems to be flowing down the same river as us.
Yep. I agree about Christina just being a genuinely empathetic person, though. I don't think she was doing it to benefit herself.
I don't either. Colton even said in an interview that he thought she was.
Yeah, and he said
Right.
he even
No, I don't think
apologized
she
to
was.
her. Did you hear that? He said he apologized to Christina.
I might have
Did
in
you
one of
hear
his
that?
interviews.
Yeah, I'm thinking, really? Okay, we'll see. Wow.
Is this a good place to cover some of the points of his interviews? Because we just covered a lot of stuff that mentioned his interviews, and for those that haven't heard his exit interviews, there's some really interesting things that he said.
Well, go for it, man.
Okay. Colton's survivor strategy. Like we said, his initial alliance was with Jay from day one. His closest friend on the female side was Kim, and which I found kind of odd because when they edited it, they showed her wanting to get him away from the tribe.
Yeah, I was really surprised to hear that.
Yeah. But Kim and Colton even joked about pulling a Todd and Amanda on the rest of them. And for those of y'all that don't know, season 15 in China was Todd Herzog who ended up winning, and Amanda was it Kimmel, I think. And they did like a power couple thing, playing both sides all the way to the end till they were in the final 3. Colton wanted to get rid of Bill first, but was worried about Matt's power and leadership and didn't trust him any longer. That's why Matt was the first to go. Now, this is all of Colton's post-exit strategy. So take it for what you want, but I'm an optimist, so I'm going to believe it. I think it's pretty smart. He goes on to say he wanted to get rid of Bill for three reasons. One, Bill was a smooth talker and could turn a conversation in a second. If he was talking to someone on the beach about strategy, if someone else came up, he'd change the subject in a second. He was a good actor. Two, Bill was also close to Jonas, and Colton felt he could lead Jonas, but not Bill. So he wanted Jonas without his friend Bill, so Jonas would follow Colton. That's kind of what Eriks said in cutting off Kim's arm by taking out Chelsea.
Right.
He cut off Jonas's arm by taking out Bill.
Okay.
So that's similar to what his strategy was. Colton was also worried that if Bill made it to the end, he'd play the I'm poor card and win the money.
Okay.
Even Colton admitted he'd give someone in that situation the money. So Colton said he never told us about Afghan. He never told us about his military time.
Right.
All we heard was sleeping at different people's couches and the way he lived, that he was poor, and yada, yada. So that's three good reasons to get rid of Bill.
Right.
That we didn't really pick up watching the episode. The Monano tribe did ask the producers if they could give up the immunity idol and go to council. And the producers confirmed that it had to be a unanimous decision, which we figured out. Leaf was told by Colton to go along or he'd be next. So with all the men okay to go and Leaf acting like the sacrificial lamb, Bill felt okay and agreed to go. What turned Colton against Christina was that after the merge, Christina went to Colton and told him that the women didn't like him and wanted him gone. Now this is Colton, his version. He asked who specifically, and she said Kim, which he knew was not true. So he knew that Christina would say anything to anyone to stay in the game, which coincides with what Tarzan told Leaf. But before his medical evacuation, he knew that Alicia had ties with the other girls, so she was to go before Christina, which is obviously what Erik read too. Before he left, he asked if he could pass the idol to someone on Solani, which meant Jay. They said no because it was a Monano tribe, so he kept it and explained his reasoning as to a way to protect Jay. I thought how ironic that Jeff Probst never spoke up to say, since one of the idols has left the playing field, another idol will be hidden at camp. But since they are merging, we may be down to just a one idol game anyway. But he usually says that when an idol leaves the game without being played, that it's left.
Right.
He didn't mention that. So he kind of left it as in, I'm not going to confirm what Alicia just told you guys.
Right.
I'm going to leave it out there so you guys can hassle over it later.
Right.
But those are just some of the points I found really neat out of Colton's exit interviews. And if, like I said, I'm an optimist. So
Yeah.
I want to believe in that is a pretty smart strategy. I would have liked to have seen him keep going. And right now, I'd like to see him come back in another season.
David, you know what I see right now?
What do you see right now besides my face and the other side of your computer?
I see in your hand a big jug that's full of Colton Kool-Aid. That is what I see in your hand. I do not agree with you. I think you have drank. See, there you go. You're drinking it right now. You're drinking the Colton Kool-Aid. You have fallen,
green too, just like his shirt.
You have fallen for all of his post-show interview stuff. You have fallen for all of it, and you are believing it all. You're taking it all in, and you are drinking his Kool-Aid. I am sorry. I do not believe it. I think he was just. I mean, okay. I do think that he was probably smart and probably thought about a bunch of that stuff, but the parts about him acting like that's not who he really is, and he was appalled at some of the stuff he said. I actually think him and his buddies sat in the room and died laughing at the whole thing. So
Now, I didn't mention any of that stuff because I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think he's kind of scum, but otherwise.
So this is the sound of you drinking the Kool-Aid.
I can give you a real sound if you want.
No, it's all right. All right, we're going to move on to Veronica's. This is Veronica part 1. All right? And
Chapter 1.
It's funny because part 2 says I changed my mind. So this would be interesting. All right, part 1. Wow, I am so shocked that it was Colton that was medevaced out. I was just sure it was Tarzan. I kept expecting everything Tarzan did to result in injury. I'm almost disappointed to see Colton go, just because he made for such good TV. But I do feel like now that his ugly hold over this season is over, it will be interesting to see who steps up as a leader, especially now that the tribes are merged. Didn't see that coming at all. Great TV, CBS. I agree. Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, they kind of caught us early because it would have been the next episode more than likely. We would have all been thinking about that. But of course, we've also seen that Jonas kind of wants to take over Mr. Leader role there.
Yeah, he said that before the merge, so I'll be interested to see what he does going forward.
Right. She goes on, now, about Alicia. I think she'll get what she deserves by having aligned with Colton. No alliance outside of Tarzan is a scary thought. especially since he probably won't remember who she is tomorrow.
Good point.
Sorry for the cheap shot. It's just so hard to resist.
See, I'm the same way.
There you go.
It's too hard to resist.
There you go. I suppose their lack of warmth toward one another nullifies the possibility of my crazy theory that Tarzan and Alicia would mesh souls and walk off into the sunset wearing all too revealing undies and bad hair. Sigh. Yes, I do believe that is probably not going to happen. I do not see Tarzan and Alicia doing that. I cannot believe that Colton did not leave the idol for someone. Oh, wait. Yes, I can. He's Colton. Probably thought no one was worthy of his souvenir. Self-absorbed brat. I think we'll now have to add him to the list of survivors who we'll need to see again. Veronica. How dare you say that?
Way to go, Veronica.
Minus, well, she changes her mind on her second.
We're not there yet. Don't spoil
Oh,
it.
okay,
Don't
all right,
spoil
all right. Minus Russell, Coach, Ozzy, and Rupert, of course. In other words,
it.
she
I'm
doesn't.
completely agreeing with you there.
Yeah, she
Please
doesn't
don't
want to
bring
see.
those
I
guys
don't want to
back.
see Russell again. I don't want to see Coach again. I absolutely can't stand to see Ozzy again. Don't want to see Rupert again. So I agree. Okay. I can't wait to listen to your podcast. Well, thank you, Veronica. We can't wait to record
So
it.
nice.
Yeah. Since none of your crazy theories last week encompass Colton's departure or emerge, I'm sure you will have a lot of interesting thoughts, Veronica. All right. Well, we'll leave it to y'all to decide if we had interesting thoughts or not. Here is Veronica's second email. I changed my mind. I do not want to see Colton on any more Survivor episodes, ever. I do not wish for his behavior to be focused on, even for good TV. What a bully. In my previous feedback, I said we'd need to see him again on another All-Stars. After further reflection, the only way I'd be willing to subject myself to his ugliness of spirit is if he was put on a tribe with someone who will put him in his place and make efforts to actually get through to him, genuinely. I wouldn't even wish for him to be subjected to the very same level of bullying that he dished out. No one deserves that, even him. Thanks for listening. You're welcome, Veronica. Thanks for the feedback. I still wouldn't mind seeing he and Richard Hatch, though. I think Richard Hatch might put him in his place. Either that or they would just work together.
Well, there's no strong personality like his on here. Alicia's not even close to him.
Right. All right. We have our last feedback. I am glad we got this one. It's from Bert, and I was thinking maybe he wasn't going to write back because of what I said in our first feedback with him. But
Hey,
he
Bert.
did. Yes. Now he's really not going to write back. So from Bert, Dwaine and David, really enjoyed your podcast again this week. You guys always seem to catch something that I missed each and every episode. I would like your thoughts on a few things. Oh, wow. So he wants our thoughts. Are you ready? Be prepared, David, to give your thoughts.
Okay.
All right. In two separate interviews this week, Colton swears that Alicia, not Christina, was the next to be voted out.
This sounds like Colton's interviews are saying that he would have gone back to the men's side.
Yeah.
And Alicia, like he said, Alicia had ties back to that other group.
Right.
So he would want to get rid of her to start knocking out that alliance over there.
Right.
So he was going to spare Christina and get rid of and blindside Alicia. That would have been a true blindside.
Yeah, well, I remember in one of our episodes, I even said it seems like a lot more logical that Colton would vote out Alicia before Christina because Alicia would be a bigger threat. You know?
True.
And yeah, the way he was playing was just destroying the girls. You know?
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
yeah,
That's true. He convinced Alicia to start voting out the women and not.
Yeah.
She was already to get rid of Christina.
Yeah.
So he was definitely working that
Want
strategy.
to talk about somebody drinking Colton Kool-Aid? It was Alicia.
Yeah, but we would have never seen this blindside unless they started talking about it.
Right.
Because the way it was edited, Christina was next to go.
All right, number 2. Sabrina gave Colton his idol, but in the interviews he stated he wanted to give his idol to Jay. Well, yeah, that's because he said that he and Jay hit it off on the first day.
Right.
Right. So.
But he didn't because he didn't want to mess up Jay's plans by giving it to somebody else.
Right. All right, number 3. Alicia has been spared twice now and would have been next to go both when the men who won the immunity challenge but went to tribal to vote out Bill, and again now when Colton medevaced out as Manano had very little chance of winning immunity. Wow, he's right. That's 2 times she's gotten out of it.
They were going to vote out Alicia?
Who was? Who?
The women before they swapped tribes?
That's the way it was. That's the way it was looking to be. Yeah, because Sabrina went to Kim and started talking about, Alicia's like a man. She's a pain in our rear ends here at
Oh,
Kim.
that was the challenge where Jeff kind of got lit into her, where they didn't complete that puzzle fast enough.
Yes.
And she was smiling. Okay, I got you now.
Right.
Yeah, that was a possibility, but I don't think they were. I think Kim still wanted to keep that alliance.
Yeah. Well, We'll never know. We'll never
There you
know.
go.
And so, but yeah, it seems to be that's been 2 times that Alicia's perhaps gotten out of a
That's not a good sign.
Maybe
You just
she's the
fate.
cockroach. Maybe she's the cockroach. And she's the one who you can't ever seem to get rid of. So
Wouldn't it be neat if her and Christina actually had a secret alliance and we're trying to go all the way to the end?
golly. Then we would know Christina is truly a very special person to be able to embrace Alicia after all the stuff she went through. Very
Right.
humble and very gracious and merciful. All right, number 4. Do you feel cheated that Colton left this way?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. With no satisfaction of a vote out. I am wishing Alicia was gone and still looking forward to a Colton blindside. We agree. We would have
Yep.
loved to have seen a Colton blindside. He ends and says, "Thanks again, guys, Bert." All right, David, that's all of our feedback for this week. That was pretty awesome. We got more feedback this week than ever before.
That was good.
And we even have some regulars. Pretty
Yep.
much Eriks, Sylvia, and Veronica are pretty much regulars, and maybe the other 2, and Bert is a regular. So who knows, man? We may just be getting a little following there. That's pretty neat. That's pretty
Awesome.
neat. All right. We don't have any iTunes reviews to go over this week. So those of you listening, if you haven't left us an iTunes review and you like us, then leave one. If you haven't left one and you don't like us, feel free to just bypass that little...
Skip right over that part.
You
of
don't
the
have to
page.
do that at all. It's just fine. Just leave it alone. So, is there anything you want to add or ask, David?
I'm just going to take another sip of my Kool-Aid.
Yes, your Kool-Aid. I do want to say that next week is spring break, and my family's going to head to the beach for a day. And so I think we'll still be able to record Thursday night. You going to be available on Thursday night?
As far as I know.
All right.
Thursday night, yeah.
All right. So, y'all, we'll do our normal recording next week. If you want to join our fantasy pool, it's what? We're only into week 6, something like that.
Yeah.
So, you could still catch up. Follow the link on our website at www.survivortalkwithdnd.com.
And after you listen to this podcast, leave us your comments on our Facebook page. We've got a group page, Survivor Talk with D&D. We'd love to hear from you.
Music for tonight's show is Giving You All Control by Jeremy Camp. You can find a link on our blog. And if you like our show, please subscribe on iTunes or put us in your favorites list on Stitcher. We have over 50 people that have us on their favorites list on Stitcher.
What?
I know, it's pretty awesome.
That's amazing.
No,
Actually, I'm one, so 49's the other one.
there you go. Well, and I'm one, so that's 48.
Okay.
And then all the
48
people's,
people.
all those people's phones that I snuck while they were doing something else and put our podcast.
All your coworkers.
I installed Stitcher and added our. They go, why do we keep getting these notifications from Stitcher? All right, that's not true. All right, thanks again for listening, y'all. That's all I got. How about you, Dave?
I'm done.
All right, see you, everybody.
See ya.
I'm never going back. I set myself up for the lies that this world satisfies. But you're all that I need.
He then goes on to say that Leaf saying explanate is a neologism. Is a neologism. How do you say that?
Neologism.
Okay.
I guess. Neologism.
He then goes on to say that Leaf saying explanate is a neologism. This is also incorrect. A neologism, if I'm saying it right,
Jism.
is it
I
jism?
think it's jism. Now, I would go back and see what Tarzan called it, but he might be wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go by Tarzan's word.
All right, well, I'm afraid Canuck is going to, write me an email and say you're an idiot because you can't pronounce the word.
I think most of the scientific terms that have GISM are pronounced jism. So I'm going to
You
bet
know what?
it's jism.
I'm going to go look it up because I want to say it right.
I was going to say, let's go back and start again. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's going to be a jism.
I'll start it there, but anyway. Neologism.
I found one of these sites too because I got Erik's city down pat.
Okay, hold on. Neologism. It's neologism.
You are exactly right.
Neologism.
That's what my pronunciator said too.
All right. A couple of years ago, podcast was considered a neologism. Did I say that right? A neologism?
I forgot.
Forgot now. I need to go back to my site. Make sure I'm saying it right.
Neologism. Neologism.
Neologism.
The worst part is my site sounds like Tarzan.
Alright, here I go. Hold on. Yeah, I said it right. Okay, neologism. Okay.
This word's kicking our butt.
That's what's considered a neologism.